All right, so let's have a look at how this all works in the background. So first thing that I'm going to run you through is just an overview of how the entire system works together. And then we're going to actually interact with Maya step by step, and I'll show you how everything's running in the background mid-conversation. So a quick overview. Maya was built on a platform called BotPress. Now, BotPress is an incredible tool for building these conversational agents, and it integrates really nicely with WhatsApp, which is what we've used for the build. And this is really it. This is how Maya looks, with two function calls over here and a conversation end function call. Now, if you aren't familiar with BotPress, don't worry too much about the technicalities. Just get the general structure here. This template will also be provided in the resource hub for you to download and upload right into BotPress. And just by the way that you do that, you hit this little BotPress icon in the top left, import and import from file, and you can just upload the file and it'll import Maya exactly as is. So once the user sends a message to Maya, it's going to start off at the start node and it'll go and execute these two pieces of code. And you don't need to worry too much about what's going on here, but all this one is doing is it's getting the current date in a friendly format and then storing it in a variable for that date. And that's just so that Maya is aware of where in time she is when she's interacting with a lead. Like, is it a Thursday? Is it a Friday? Like, what's going on? And then we're taking the number off of WhatsApp. And so this is just the syntax that you would use to get the number of the user from WhatsApp and save it into Maya so that Maya has the number of the user automatically. Now we're going to go into our first autonomous node. Now, what an autonomous node is it's similar to a ChatGPT prompt where we give the autonomous node this big prompt where we're explaining exactly what we want to do. And then from there, the LLM or the AI model that we're using is going to go and then just interact with the user according to that. And what's amazing about this is it means you can avoid building bots that are that decision tree, like yes or no, and then the user has to click either yes or no. You can avoid that, and you can really just build a bot that is authentic and natural in the way that it communicates with leads. Now, I don't want to read through the entire prompt on this video, so you can go ahead and either pause your screen and read through it as it is right here, or I will have it provided in the resource hub as well for you to copy and paste and modify as you'd like. And then on the bottom, we have just given Maya some access to the variables that she might need. And we have allowed Maya to write, so to be able to add data to the first four variables, which is the name of the lead's email, the name of the business that the lead is reaching out from, and the description of the business that the lead is reaching out from. And so in this first autonomous node, all Maya is doing, if we have a quick overview, is we've given Maya a core personality, like who are you, Maya? And what this does is it allows Maya to have a personality when she's interacting with leads, which is great. We don't want it to sound robotic and feel awkward. And then we've given it a conversation flow. So the first thing is Maya's going to do like a warm welcome and just authentically chat to the lead, gauge some interest, and then determine the lead quality to transition. And now this is really important because what we've done inside of this node is we've given the two transitions. So here are two transitions. Now, the first transition says the lead has shown genuine interest in digital marketing related services, and this is a lead that is worth further discussion with, right? And so what Maya's doing here at this point in the conversation is if this is a good quality lead, then it's going to transition down this path over here into this node, which we'll have a look at now. But the second transition is if the lead is low quality, not actually interested in any digital marketing related services. So if we get a lead that's just kind of like a tire kicker or unrelated and misunderstood the ad or whatever it may be, if it's not a high quality lead, then we don't want them continuing the conversation. So Maya's going to transition away into here. And so all it's going to do instead is just get the lead's email address and save that to a variable, which we can later pull. And it'll just send them a message to say, thank you so much for reaching out. And you can email this email if you have any further questions. And it'll then go and end the conversation and done. And that way we're not wasting any time or usage on having interactions with leads that are honestly just unqualified. Now, if a lead is high quality, Maya's going to go ahead and transition into this workflow where we've given Maya the same core personality, and that allows Maya to like not feel different. So at no point in the conversation are you gonna feel like, oh, now I'm speaking to something or someone else. So we want Maya to just feel like the same bot, even though that there are different bots essentially working together as one core bot. It's actually what's happening in the background. And all we're telling Maya here is to discuss the budget range. So this is where we are trying to figure out what the budget is for the lead and just figure out like maybe challenge the lead a little bit if their budget isn't high enough for services. So we're just gauging budget in this step of the process. And then the transition that we've got here is if the budget is confirmed. So once the budget is confirmed, once the lead has confirmed a budget that they're happy to move forward with in terms of their marketing related services, we're going to transition away into this node right over here. And now what this node is just qualifying the lead based on the budget actually. As you can see, the qualification here is 8,000 Rand per month, and that gives us two transitions. So we have asked this AI model to categorize the text we have given it, and the text that we're giving it is the user's budget is, and then the budget that the user confirmed in the conversation so far. And then if the budget is at least 8,000 Rand per month, it'll transition one way, which will continue the conversation, whereas if it's not 8,000 Rand per month, it means that they're not qualified, and then we are once again just going to go ahead and collect their email address, thank them for their time, and then if they've got any other questions, they can reach out to this email. So that's what we're doing there if they're unqualified. And now if they are qualified, so we know that they are a high quality lead, they've confirmed their budget, this is a lead that we want to book into a call. And so that's why we're going to transition into this autonomous node, which is going to handle that logic between booking a call and getting that function to work. And so the way that this autonomous node works is once again with the core personality so that we can maintain that character consistency. And then the conversation flow is just confirming interest if they are actually interested in booking in a call. And then if they are, we're going to ask them to select a date. And we want to make sure that Maya confirms the right date for the call to happen, because we don't want Maya booking in like 2027 and it's 2025 or something like that, right? So we want to make sure that Maya has the context of what the current date is, which is why in the beginning of the conversation, the very first step that we did was we had this code execute right here, which got that current date for Maya, so that now we can provide it to Maya and be like, hey Maya, this is the current date. Make sure that you're booking in the right time. And so we're going to have Maya help the user select the date for the call that they're interested in. And then we are asking Maya to find the availability. Now, the way that that works is we've asked Maya to transition to the workflow find availability. And then inside of the autonomous node, you can see that Maya has the ability to transition into this card, which is find availability. And that is actually referencing this workflow right over here. Now, if I open that up, there's just a piece of code that's running, and don't let this piece of code intimidate you. It's really not that complicated. All this is, it's actually an API call. And where this API call is connected to is a make.com scenario in the background, which I will pull up in a moment. But if you're unfamiliar with what's going on here, it's super simple. All you need to worry about is this is the data that we're sending. So we're just taking a bundle, we're essentially making a package that we want to send in the API request. And then we are sending the API request, which is this text that's happening here. And then the response that we're getting, we're saving into this variable, which is actually the availability. So we are saving that into a variable that Maya can then access mid-conversation. Now, if I were to pull up the make.com scenario for us, let's have a look at what's going on here. You can see that this is a webhook right here that is executing this webhook right over there. And when that webhook gets executed, the first thing that it's going to check for is what it needs to perform, because inside of this scenario, it's both able to check for availability and book in the call. And the way that it knows in this case to go check for availability is in the data that we're sending through, we're actually telling it to go and find the availability. So it'll go and check in a filter, hey, does the type of request that we're doing here equal to find availability, or does the type of request equal to book a call? And so in this case, it would equal to find availability, and that will execute it to go down this long path over here, which will send it back some data in a moment. And so once it's executed down this path to find availability, the first thing that it's going to do, it's going to format the date in a way that's going to make sense to the Google Calendar API, which is in the format of the year. So 2025, the month 09, and the day 23, whatever the month and day is. And then it's going to go and connect it to the Google Calendar API to get the free and busy information for a specific calendar. So the calendar that I've got connected is just a demo calendar. And then I've just selected that. You can see all of my calendars over here. And then it is going to search for the time to search between. So we've got our date that we've got from the conversation that we've now formatted, and we're searching from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. right here. So 1800 is the maximum time that we're searching for. So we're searching for on that date between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. And we're going to pull all of the busy and free information for that time frame. And then in our next step, we can see that there are a few things happening here pretty much in one go. And what is happening is the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to set an array of available times. So we've got our array from 8 a.m. to 4:30 in 30-minute slots. I believe that there are 16 slots then of when we're typically available. So this isn't the current availability. This is when we're typically available. Because what we're going to do now is we're going to take that availability array and we're going to take all of our busy information from our calendar and we're going to remove the slots that we're actually busy in so that we can give back to the bot the slots that we are available in. I hope that makes sense, but you'll see how that works in a moment. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is we want to make sure that we repeat for the amount of times that there is information in our calendar that's busy, so we can take out the actual amount of slots that we don't have available. And so we're going to use a repeater to do that. That is going to match the length of however many slots we're unavailable for. And then it's going to open up the availability array that we created into an iterator, which means for every item in the availability array, it'll loop through it for the next step, which is actually a filter to check if the value of the current busy time from our calendar is inside of that availability array. So if at any point in our busy time from our calendar, so if we have an event on at 9 o'clock, it'll check if 9 o'clock is inside of our availability array. And if it is, then it'll skip that and only take in the times that we are available to save it to a variable using a text aggregator. Now, it's not super important for you to understand the exact logic of what's going on here. As usual, this is a template and I will provide it as part of the resource hub for you to download completely free and upload. You can play around and see what's going on here and then even just use it for yourself. And then the next thing that it's going to do is it's going to set our availability array and our busy time array using the text parser. So now we've got a whole array of times that it's busy with. So we have managed to take, okay, if it's busy at 8 a.m. and 1 p.m., we'll end up with an array which will have list items of 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. And then we'll take our availability array and we will open it up in an iterator and a text aggregator. And this is actually where the magic's happening. So now we've gone through the process of getting our availability generally and our busy times of that calendar for that specific day. So now we've got two arrays we can compare to. And essentially all this means is we've got a list here of available times and we've got a list here of busy times, and we're just going to match and go, okay, cool, which busy times match up with the available times, and then just take them out so that we're left with only the core available times for that specific day. And that's exactly what's happening here. So we're going to open up the availability array. We're going to check if the availability array contains the value from the busy times array. And then if it doesn't, we're going to save it. And if it does, it's going to skip it. And then what's great about that is we will then just return to the bot using a webhook response, the list of available times, which you can see from our past example is just a list of 8 a.m., 8:30, 10 a.m., 10:30. So you can see that in that case, we were busy from 9 o'clock and 9:30. Those two slots were taken. So it took that out and it pasted it back in with those slots taken out of our general availability. And it's actually checking using a filter to see if there is any available slots at all. Because if it goes through this process and that day is completely taken up, then it'll actually see that. It'll see that that text doesn't even exist. So there's no available times. And the response that it'll give back to the bot is that we have no availability for this date. Otherwise, it'll give back the list of available times, which the bot, Maya, will then save to a variable called availability. Now, although that may seem complicated with a bunch of steps and you're thinking like, oh, that's going to take like 5 minutes every single time, what's beautiful about this is that entire process of checking for availability takes anywhere from half a second to like 2 seconds. And so for the lead, all of that happens, the entire availability is checked before the lead can even send another message. And so that's a really great way to check availability without having a fancy calendar integration. If you're just using Google Calendar, it's exactly how I have it set up to do it with this make.com scenario. And in a moment, we'll see how Maya is also able to then go and book in the call using these two steps here. But let's jump back into Maya and see how the flow continues. So Maya at this point has now used this card to find availability, which is called our webhook on make.com. Go check the availability, return it, and now Maya has availability. And then we can see in the prompt that we've got written out, Maya is going to help the user select the slot. So engage naturally with the lead to allow them to select the slot. Start with asking if they have a preference. And what we are providing Maya is exactly that user.availability, which is the availability that we just got from make.com. So we're giving Maya in live time, hey, here's the live availability for that day. Help the user select the time from our calendar using these values right here. And then the last step in this prompt is to book a slot. And so once the user has confirmed the availability, Maya has then stored it in a variable. We're going to have Maya book a slot. So once the user has confirmed the slot, immediately transition to the book call workflow. And you can see that that is then this workflow right here. And we've allowed Maya to have access into that book call workflow right there. And so if we jump into that workflow, book call, we can see the logic that's being executed is the first step. We're going to check if we have the email for the lead because we don't want to try and book in a call without an email. The user's not going to be able to get their booking on their calendar if we don't have their email. It's going to check if we don't have their email. And if we don't, it's going to ask for their email and save it. If we do, it won't ask for their email because we'll already have it. And then we're going to do a very similar thing to the initial API call where we will have the data that we're sending through for the API and where we're sending it to, which is our webhook on this make.com scenario. And now this time we can see that once this webhook gets executed, it'll actually go down this path because now the type will equal book call. And the reason the type is going to book a call is over here in the data that we're sending through type book call instead of find availability. So we can execute the same webhook, but return a different function just by using a filter inside of our make.com scenario. And then alongside the type, we're sending through the slot that the user wants to book for, the date that the user wants to book for, the name of the user so that we can personalize the invitation, and the email so that we can actually invite the user via email. That's all the data we need to actually book in a call for the user. And we can see the logic that's executing. It'll go down this route. And then the first thing that it's going to do is it's going to save the slot using the date that we got from the bot's conversation and the actual time slot that we got from the bot's conversation. And then using those two things, we'll have a slot that's perfectly formatted. And then we can create an event inside of Google Calendar. And we can see that we are adding it to the demos calendar, which is the calendar that I got set up for this. We've got a color that the event's going to get booked in. And then we can see discovery chat with the lead's name. So it's a personalized invitation. When do we want it to happen? Start date. And then the end date, all we've done is we've used the start date plus 30 minutes. So we've just said, okay, it's a 30-minute call. So we've just added minutes to the initial slot date. And then easy description, quick chat with lead name on the phone, location, phone call, and then attendees, you can have the lead name, and this is where we're using the email so that they get the invitation, and then we're blocking it out on that calendar as busy so that the next time a lead tries to book into the calendar, that slot won't be available anymore. And it's as simple as that. So if we jump back into the scenario, we can see that that's being sent through. We don't need to save anything, so you can see there is no webhook response here, such as this route over here, sent back a webhook response. We don't need anything back. We know that the call would have been booked in. And then the next step is actually just an exit. So if we jump back into that autonomous node, we can see that what we've got enabled here is an exit route. So this autonomous node, this step in the bot, is going to go at that point in the conversation and call the book call workflow, which will execute the scenario in make.com to go and book the call. And then when it comes back, it's not going to keep the conversation going inside of this autonomous node. It's just going to go ahead and exit. And then the next thing it's going to send is all set. Thanks so much with the lead's name. Chat soon. And it'll go and end the conversation. And that's a conversation flow. Now, the last thing that we need is how do we get all of this information that has now been logged by the bot into an actual CRM so that our team can actually have access to what happened in the conversation. Plus, additionally to this, we've got some resources that are being generated with AI. First, we've got an email going through to the lead that is personalized based on the conversation. And then we've also got an analysis of the conversation that has happened. And so we want to send that through as well. And then what we've got going on is whenever our bot conversation hits one of these end nodes, what it's going to do is transition into this conversation end workflow. And that is going to execute this piece of code that we've got here. And this will look very familiar. It's just another API call that sends all of this data through to a webhook, which is connected to this make.com scenario right here. Now you can see this make.com scenario is quite straightforward. We've got a few AI nodes that are doing various things for us. And then we are creating that document, that analysis document. We are adding all the data to our CRM. And in this case, we're using Notion for a CRM. And then we are writing up an email and sending it to the lead. So let's have a look at everything that's happening here. So this is obviously just the execution, which happens when this piece of code is run. The data that we're sending through is the name for the lead, their phone number, their email, the budget that we confirmed with them, their description of the business, the name of the business, when they booked in a time. And then part of what BotPress actually provides for us is a summary of the conversation, which is stored in this variable right here, plus the transcript of the conversation, which is stored right over here. So we can actually send that data through as well so that we have it for generating the resources that we need. And so we're taking all of that, packaging it into one variable called end call data. And you can see that that's popping up here. So that's the data that we're sending it to. And we're sending it to this webhook URL. And so once that happens, it'll execute this webhook URL right here. And then the first step that we're doing is we're scoring and tiering the lead. And how we've got this set up is using a response. So we're creating a response with the OpenAI API through make.com. Now, if you're not sure how to set this up, it's quite straightforward, and you can see the online help if you just click there and it'll walk you through it. But you need a OpenAI account, which is completely free to get started. And you would just go to your API keys and then generate a key. So you can see my API key right here for Maya is over there. And so it'll give you an API key to copy, and you create a connection inside of your make.com scenario, and it's as simple as that. And then you just want to give it some instructions and some context into what it's doing. So you can see the whole prompt is over here. I will leave this prompt in the resource hub as well if you want to see how it's written out and how it works. But all this prompt is doing is it's like, hey, read through the summary and the transcript, which we're giving it here at the bottom of the prompt. So here's the conversation summary, and here's the transcript of the conversation. And then based on all of this criteria, so we're explaining to the AI model like what it needs to look for to tier the lead based on the conversation that happened. And then we've given it some scoring criteria, and what it'll return is a JSON output, which is the lead score and the lead tier. So it's both going to give it a score out of 100 and a tier, either tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3. And so this agent right here, all it does is it looks at the conversation, gives us a score and a tier. And so you can see how this all looks like Maya creating all of these resources, having this conversation and all of these things. But really all it is it's various AI models that are connected, and each of them are performing a very specific task. Because when you set up your automation in that way, you know that an AI model is going to perform much better if it only needs to take care of one specific task. And then you just set up your environment in a way that makes it seem seamless and makes it seem like it's actually just one bot taking care of everything. And that's a really powerful way to build automations and to build AI systems for your business. And so once a conversation ends, that's going to be the first model that's handling the end of conversation data. The second one is going to be to identify the stage. So inside of our CRM, if we pull that up, we can see that there are various stages that a lead might end up in. Maybe it's just a new lead and we didn't get enough information. Maybe the lead is qualified, but they never booked in a call. Maybe the lead is qualified and they booked in a call, or they're unqualified, and then the team can continue to update the CRM. But by having an AI model just analyze the conversation and figure out where in the CRM this lead now belongs, you can actually have AI helping you manage your leads in that way with one simple AI model taking care of that. And that's exactly what's happening here. Once again, this prompt will be in the resource hub, so you'll have access to that. But a quick overview, once again, we're just giving it the conversation transcript so that it has the context to know where this lead ends up. And then we're giving it the options. So either new lead, unqualified, qualified, or call booked, and then telling it exactly how to give us the response. Now, what's important when using AI models in automation, it's really helpful for your output to actually be structured as JSON. So you just want to make sure that in your prompt, you're giving it the context of how you want the response to be given to you. And so in this case, it says your response should be a valid JSON object in the following structure, lead stage, and then actually provide the lead stage in this JSON object. And then if you just scroll down to the bottom of this prompt and make sure that advanced setting is turned on, you want to make sure that your output format is set to JSON object, and that'll give you the variable for your response. So in this case, the variable that it'll give us is lead stage, and we can map that in later on in the conversation or later on in the scenario inside of make.com. Okay, cool. So first agent, it's scoring and tiering. Second agent, it's identifying which stage in the pipeline it is going to end up in. And then the third stage is giving us a business overview. So this agent is going to look at the transcript of the conversation and generate just an easy to understand like what's their business about, because this is for a marketing agency. So a marketing agency really needs to understand what business they're going to be marketing if this lead converts. And so this is a very important step. And you can see that inside of the CRM, if I were to just pull up a old lead, that business overview is going to be this piece of text right here. And so it's not a very complicated process, but it is a very important one for us to be able to see like, hey, there's an actual like description of what this business is. And that really helps the team know exactly what to do with this lead. So if we jump back into our scenario, the next step is the one that is quite cool, the document that gets generated. And that's this AI model. Now this prompt is slightly more complicated. Once again, it'll be in the resource description, but this one is not only using a JSON object as an output, we're also asking this AI model to generate its output in HTML. Now, all HTML is it's just a way to format text that has formatting. So we can see in our document that we had generated. So we can see in our document that we had generated, we don't want it all to just be one like boring text. We've got some nice blue text coming up with a title, and then we've got some line separation, so paragraph separation, another title with some blue text, bullet points and bolding the text and so on. So just it's an easy way for you to be able to format text through API calls and things. HTML, very important. You don't need to know how to use HTML. You just need to ask your AI model to generate it in HTML, and it'll do it as you want it to. And then all we've given it in the prompt is the conversation transcript and then some guidelines for the HTML, which you can honestly just sit on ChatGPT and be like, hey, this is what I want my document to end up looking like. Can you just give me the HTML formatting guidelines and put it in the prompt? As I say, this will be in the resource hub for this video, so you can have a look at that. And then the other thing that we're actually adding into this prompt is some context into how to generate this analysis. And so if we jump into our platform, what we've got inside of our storage is actually a file that is the knowledge base for Elevate Media. And all this knowledge base is it's a bunch of information on the services that Elevate Media provides to their clients. Because we want this analysis with the recommendations. If we look over here, we want these recommendations to be like based on the company's services. We don't want them to just be random recommendations. We want to make sure that our document is helping our team based on what our team can actually do for clients. And so we're just sending that through as information, and we're connecting that to this AI model, and it'll use that to generate the analysis. So this is a really cool step. And then all we're doing is we're creating a document. So you can see that we're mapping through the results of this model right here. And we're naming the document chat report for the lead name, and we're saving it into a Google Drive folder. And then we're almost done. Last 4 steps is we are going to add the record to the CRM. So we are just connected to our Notion database using the database ID, and you can see our field name. So if we pull up our database and we jump into the field names, we've got name, phone, email, stage, lead score, lead tier, and analysis. And if we open this up, we've got name, the files and media is the lead analysis. And then if we look at our Notion module, we've got the name, we've got the document that we're mapping in, we've got the phone number, the lead score, the lead tier, the email, and the stage. And so all of this is information that we've generated using our AI models that we've gotten from the BotPress conversation, that we've generated using Google Docs. All of that has been generated. Now all we're doing is we're taking all of that and we're putting it inside of Notion. And then we are adding the 2 pieces of information, which is the business description, the overview. And then we are also adding the summary of the conversation that BotPress gave us so that the team has that as well. And that's how we're just putting everything into Notion after we've generated everything. And then last step is to just send the lead an email. So we are generating an email with this AI model. Once again, this is actually using HTML so that our email can look nice and we can have our logo there. It's another really cool use case of HTML. And then what I've done for the prompt is I've just explained what I want it to do for the email and what the email needs to include. And then I've actually also given it a template. So all of this, you can see HTML email template over here. All of this is actually HTML that I have gone and generated with an AI model. Just asked it to like, hey, can you generate a really nice looking email with a logo in the top left and all of that? And it'll then generate that HTML for you to use inside of your email. And then we're just giving that as part of the prompt so that it knows the structure to follow in the email. And if you don't give it this, it might still be able to generate some really nice looking emails every single time, but it won't be the same format. So like one lead will have one email that looks a certain way, and another lead will have another email that looks a certain way, because you're not giving the AI any context as to what this email needs to look like. And so that's all that I've done here. And then once again, given it the chat transcript, it'll go generate that email, and then we are sending that email to the lead. And then once it's done that, it'll go ahead and send that email to the lead. Here's the lead's email address. Thanks for the chat with the lead's name. And then the content type you can see is HTML that we're sending through, and we're sending through that HTML that has now been generated. And that's the structure of everything in the backend, and that's how everything is working together. We've got a BotPress bot that's built with Maya, connected to 2 make.com scenarios, one to find availability and book calls, and the second one to handle all of logging the data inside of the CRM after the conversation finishes. And this is an incredible example where you can see already just in this scenario, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 AI models working together in unison as if they are one, but they're each completing one specific task of the process so that every task of that process can be executed flawlessly. And then we've got our bot that also has a few different AI models. So we've got this autonomous node, that's 1. We've got this AI transition that's determining where to go, that's 2. We've got this autonomous node that's confirming the budget, that's 3. This autonomous node that is handling the first bit of the conversation to gauge, like, is this lead good, is this lead bad? And so we've got like 4 AI models like working together here. We've got 4 on the back end logging everything, creating resources, and it's all working together seamlessly to provide such an incredible experience for both the team at Elevate Media and the leads that reach out to the team. And so I hope that this was a helpful video to show you exactly how an AI sales agent that is this powerful was built with two make.com scenarios and a very simple structure on BotPress with just some prompting and knowing where to put everything. All of the templates will be available. There will be links to each one of these softwares that was used, and everything on this build can actually be done on the free plans on all of the softwares, whether it be BotPress, make.com, or Notion. You can build this completely for free, and the templates are there for you to just download and upload so that you can get a head start on building your own AI sales agent.